Every century, when a newly spacefaring species earned the right to join the interstellar community, representatives from every major empire gathered beneath the crystal dome of Asterion Prime. It was a ceremony meant to celebrate progress, unity, and hope. It was also where first impressions became permanent. Thousands of alien delegates filled the amphitheater, their bodies taking forms so different that the hall itself constantly shifted shape to accommodate them. Some floated in transparent tanks of nutrient fluid, others perched on metallic frameworks. Towering insectoid generals stood beside crystalline beings whose voices chimed like glass. At the very center stood a single human. Ambassador Elias Ward adjusted the collar of his navy blue diplomatic uniform and ignored the countless eyes fixed upon him. He had spent years preparing for this moment. He had imagined curiosity. He had expected skepticism. He had not expected laughter. A low rumble echoed through the chamber. Then another. Soon the entire hall erupted. Not hostile laughter. Dismissive laughter. The towering Varkul delegates slapped their armored tails against the marble floor. The feathered Silari covered their beaks to hide amused whistles. Even species incapable of facial expression displayed glowing patterns that translated into the universal equivalent of amusement. Elias remained perfectly still. The speaker finally raised 4 crystalline limbs. Order. Silence slowly returned. The speaker's voice resonated through every translator. Representative of Earth, humanity has requested admission into the Galactic Compact. Before the vote, the Assembly will evaluate your civilization according to established criteria. A holographic sphere blossomed above the chamber. Earth rotated slowly. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. The image was beautiful. The statistics beside it were not. Population, military strength, economic output, fleet capacity, colonized worlds, technological index. The numbers were painfully average, below average, in several categories. The speaker continued. Human civilization has achieved faster than light travel independently. A respectful murmur. Human civilization possesses no psionic capability. Several delegates exchanged glances. No biological armor. More whispers. No natural weapons. The Varkul general smiled. No hive intelligence. The insectoid commanders clicked their mandibles. No adaptive regeneration. The reptilian delegates looked almost disappointed. No planetary defense network beyond local standards. Now the whispers became louder. The speaker paused. Assessment complete. One by one, evaluations appeared. Physical strength, low. Environmental adaptation, moderate. Military potential, limited. Political influence, negligible. Natural survivability, poor. The final conclusion illuminated the chamber. Overall strategic value, minimal. The laughter returned. Elias stared at the floating words. He had seen this report before arriving. Earth intelligence had intercepted preliminary evaluations weeks ago. Nothing about it surprised him. What surprised him was how quickly every advanced civilization accepted statistics as destiny. A Varkul commander requested permission to speak. Granted. The giant stood nearly 4 meters tall, muscles layered beneath dark scales harder than titanium. His voice sounded like mountains grinding together. So, he looked directly at Elias. This is humanity. Another wave of laughter. We expected predators. He slowly circled the hologram of Earth. We found prey. His soldiers laughed openly. Our hatchlings possess stronger claws. Our workers survive conditions that would kill your soldiers. You cannot breathe methane. You cannot survive vacuum. You cannot regenerate. You cannot communicate telepathically. You have no biological advantages whatsoever. He leaned forward. What exactly makes your species worthy of joining us? The hall fell quiet. Everyone waited. Elias smiled politely. We're good at solving problems. The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then the chamber exploded again. Even the speaker struggled to restore order. The Varkul commander shook his head. Problem solving? He laughed. So your greatest weapon is thinking. Elias answered calmly. It has served us well. Another delegate stood. A silver-skinned diplomat from the Aurelian Trade League. If your species is peaceful, perhaps that is admirable. He checked the data again. But your own history indicates nearly constant warfare. More holograms appeared. Ancient Earth, castles, world wars, missile crises, modern conflicts. The assembly examined centuries of violence. Several delegates frowned. So you fight constantly. And still evolved into one of the physically weakest intelligent species. An insectoid queen clicked disapprovingly. Remarkably inefficient. Another burst of laughter. The vote proceeded exactly as expected. Membership approved. Military partnership denied. Strategic alliance denied. Advanced technology exchange postponed. Defense treaty rejected. Humanity would be welcomed. Just not trusted. Certainly not respected. As the ceremony ended, Elias overheard conversations that translators were never supposed to reveal. The mammals won't survive their first border conflict. They're fortunate they entered during peacetime. I give them 20 years before becoming a protectorate. The Varkul could conquer Earth in less than a month. He walked through the corridors without reacting. Only after boarding Earth's diplomatic vessel did he allow himself a sigh. Captain Naomi Brooks waited on the bridge. How bad? Elias handed her the assembly report. She scanned it. Her eyebrows rose. Minimal strategic value. They were feeling generous. She laughed once. Not because it was funny, because there was nothing else to do. So, she folded the report. We're officially the weakest species in known space. Elias looked out the viewport. The galactic capital glowed like a galaxy trapped inside glass. They're judging muscles. They've forgotten history. 1 year later. Earth adapted surprisingly well. Trade flourished. Universities exchanged research with alien institutions. Medicine advanced decades almost overnight. Agriculture improved. Energy production tripled. Most humans believed the assembly had simply been cautious. After all, no one expected war, especially not one that had already begun, far beyond explored space, beyond commercial routes. Beyond every official star chart, a fleet crossed the void in absolute silence. Its ships were unlike anything recorded. Black hulls absorbed light itself. No identifying markings. No diplomatic frequencies. No navigation beacons. Only weapons. Thousands of them. Their commander stood before a living star map. Status. Target systems acquired. Resistance estimates. High. Insignificant. The commander nodded. As predicted. A smaller officer hesitated. There is one recent addition. The map expanded. Earth. A tiny blue point. Species designation, human. The commander reviewed the assembly database. Minimal. Weak. Limited. Negligible. He dismissed the report almost immediately. Ignore them. The officer complied. Orders spread across the invasion fleet. Primary targets. Major empires. Industrial sectors. Communication hubs. Earth remained uncategorized. Too unimportant to matter. The first attack lasted 11 minutes. No warning. No declaration. No negotiations. The industrial world of Kalar simply vanished. Orbital shipyards exploded, before distress signals reached neighboring systems. Defense satellites disappeared, cities burned. By the time nearby fleets responded, nothing remained except molten continents. The galaxy froze. No civilization had lost an entire world in over 800 years. Emergency meetings filled every government. Theories spread faster than facts. Pirates? Impossible. Rebels? Too organized. Ancient machines? Unknown. Within days, 3 more worlds fell. Every attack followed identical patterns. Communications jammed. Orbital superiority established. Planetary defenses neutralized. Complete destruction. No survivors. The Galactic Compact activated its emergency defense protocols for the first time in history. Massive fleets mobilized. The strongest empires united: the Varkul, the Solari, the Aurelian League, the Hive Consortium. Hundreds of civilizations assembled the largest military force the galaxy had ever witnessed. The enemy arrived exactly on schedule. The Battle of Helios Rift became legend, not because of victory, because of annihilation. 3,000 Allied warships entered formation. The enemy fielded barely 900. Every military analyst predicted an easy victory. Numbers alone guaranteed it. Then the battle began. Within 7 minutes, 500 Allied ships disappeared. Not destroyed, erased. Weapons passed harmlessly through shifting energy fields. Enemy projectiles ignored defensive shields completely. Entire battleships folded inward as though crushed by invisible hands. Admirals watched in horror as formations collapsed before they could issue new orders. The battle ended in 23 minutes. Only 42 Allied vessels escaped. The rest became expanding clouds of glowing debris. The galaxy had never witnessed defeat on such a scale. Panic followed. Trade routes closed. Colonies evacuated. Border systems declared martial law. Entire civilizations prepared for extinction. News reached Earth 2 days later. President Amelia Grant sat inside the underground Strategic Defense Center while intelligence officers filled every screen. Silence dominated the room. Finally, someone asked the question everyone feared. If they defeated the combined fleets, what chance do we have? No one answered, because everyone already knew. Almost none. President Grant looked toward General Marcus Hale. The oldest officer in the room. What do you think? Hale stared at the casualty reports. Millions dead. Entire civilizations crippled. He finally spoke. They're making one mistake. The room turned toward him. They believe wars are won by winning battles. Someone frowned. They are. Hale slowly shook his head. No. They're won by breaking the enemy's ability to continue. He tapped Earth's icon. They don't know us. An intelligence analyst looked confused. Isn't that a disadvantage? General Hale smiled for the first time all day. No. It's theirs. Far beyond Earth's borders, the enemy commander reviewed updated intelligence. The Galactic Compact has lost. Remaining resistance. Scattered. And Earth. The officer checked again. No significant military activity. The commander dismissed the report. As expected, he never noticed the final transmission intercepted from Earth. 3 simple words. Begin Protocol Atlas. And for the first time in human history, every nation on Earth answered with exactly the same response. Confirmed. For 73 years, Protocol Atlas had existed only on paper. It had never been announced, never debated in public, never leaked. Every government on Earth knew of its existence, yet only a handful of leaders understood its full purpose. It was created on the same day humanity intercepted its first confirmed alien transmission. The document contained a single assumption. One day, someone stronger than us will come. Not someone evil, not someone cruel, simply stronger. History had taught humanity a lesson no other species seemed to understand. Strength changed. Empires rose. Empires fell. Technology advanced. Arrogance remained constant. If Earth ever encountered a civilization capable of crossing the stars, then statistically, that civilization had likely mastered warfare long before humans ever left their own solar system. The question was never whether humanity could win the first battle. The question was whether humanity could survive long enough to learn how to win the last one. Protocol Atlas answered that question. Every civilian factory on Earth possessed hidden conversion plans. Every cargo freighter could become a supply ship. Every orbital construction platform had classified blueprints stored in encrypted memory. Every university maintained emergency research divisions that had no official funding records. Every mining corporation secretly stockpiled rare metals far beyond commercial demand. Every satellite constellation could become a military communication network within hours. The world had prepared quietly, not because humans expected war, because humans expected uncertainty. General Marcus Hale stood inside the Atlas Command Center, buried beneath the Rocky Mountains. Massive holograms filled the chamber. Solar system defense grids. Industrial production. Civilian evacuation routes. Orbital shipyards. Manufacturing statistics updated every second. A young intelligence officer approached. "General, report. Global conversion has begun." Screens shifted. Automobile factories, aircraft manufacturers, commercial shipyards, consumer electronics plants, one after another, production lines stopped. Machines rotated. Walls opened. Robotic assembly systems changed configuration. Within minutes, passenger drones became reconnaissance drones. Construction robots became automated welders for warships. Steel mills began producing armor plating. Civilian fusion reactors redirected power to orbital elevators. General Hale nodded. How long? 48 hours for first stage mobilization. And second stage? 8 days. Third? The officer hesitated. 21 days. Hale looked toward the stars projected above them. We only need 14. Across the galaxy, the enemy offensive continued. The Varkul Empire attempted a counterattack using their legendary Titan legions. Entire fleets of heavily armored warships entered the Karthus corridor. They never emerged. The only surviving transmission lasted 11 seconds. Static. Explosions. Then a single sentence. They're inside. Silence. The transmission ended. The Varkul homeworld fell 6 days later. The same warriors who had mocked humanity's lack of claws fought until their final cities burned beneath black skies. No surrender was ever offered. None was accepted. The Galactic Assembly reconvened. This time, half the seats were empty. Representatives stared at casualty reports instead of each other. No one laughed anymore. The speaker addressed the chamber. Our fleets cannot stop them. Silence. Our defenses cannot slow them. More silence. Our technology has proven. The speaker struggled to finish. Insufficient. An elderly Silari diplomat stood. What about evacuation? A strategist answered immediately. They're faster. Another asked. Negotiation? No response. Retreat? They pursue. Someone whispered. So we're extinct. No one argued. Then, a human requested permission to speak. Ambassador Elias Ward stepped forward once again. The same uniform, the same calm expression. This time, no one interrupted him. Our government has a proposal. Every eye focused on him. We request access to every battle recording. Confusion spread. The speaker blinked. You wish to study them? Yes. Several admirals exchanged frustrated glances. We've already studied everything. Ward shook his head. No. You studied how they defeated you. We want to study how they fight. A Varkal survivor frowned. What's the difference? Ward answered without hesitation. Everything. Earth received the recordings 12 hours later. Thousands of hours of combat footage, sensor logs, communications, weapon signatures, ship movements, failed counterattacks. Artificial intelligence analyzed the data continuously. Human analysts worked beside it. One by one, patterns emerged. Not weaknesses, habits. The invaders preferred certain formations. So they favored overwhelming first strikes. They protected command ships more heavily than logistics vessels. Their shield harmonics fluctuated during weapon discharge. Tiny details, individually meaningless. Together, possibilities. Dr. Maya Chen, head of strategic analysis, walked into Hale's office, carrying 3 tablets. I think we've found something. He looked up. A weakness? She smiled. No. A preference. He leaned forward. Explain. They don't improvise. She enlarged battle footage. Enemy formations repeated. Again. Again? Again? Again. Different battles. Different systems. Identical tactical decisions. They've perfected one doctrine. She switched recordings. They've probably been using it for centuries. General Hale studied the displays. So they don't adapt. They adapt. She paused. Slowly. Another scientist joined them. We estimate their commanders rely on predictive algorithms. Meaning, they calculate the statistically correct response. General Hale smiled, and Dr. Chen returned the smile. Humans don't always do the statistically correct thing. 3 days later, Earth launched its first military convoy. There were no grand ceremonies, no speeches, no television broadcasts. Only workers standing silently beside roads as enormous transport vehicles rolled toward orbital elevators. Children waved. Soldiers waved back. No one knew if they would return. The convoy reached orbit within hours. There, the galaxy's newest fleet waited. It wasn't impressive, not compared to alien armadas, only 217 combat ships, mostly destroyers, a handful of carriers, supply vessels, medical ships, construction tenders. Admiral Naomi Brooks looked across the assembled fleet. This is all we have. Her executive officer nodded. For now, Brooks smiled. Then we'd better make it enough. The Galactic Compact noticed. Reaction was immediate. Confusion, concern, then disbelief. Emergency messages flooded Earth. Return your fleet. Preserve your civilization. You cannot win. The Solari Chancellor contacted President Grant directly. You've seen what they did to us. Yes. You've seen our strongest fleets destroyed. Yes. Then why send yours? President Grant answered quietly. Because they're heading toward us eventually. The Chancellor closed 4 eyes. You'll only lose your people sooner. Grant looked out toward Earth's moon. Maybe. But they'll have to earn every kilometer. The human fleet crossed the edge of explored space. Its destination wasn't an enemy fortress or a decisive battle. It was something much smaller. A damaged alien colony abandoned during evacuation. Intelligence suggested an enemy logistics group would arrive within 48 hours. Only 12 warships. Human command had no intention of defending the colony. Instead, they began placing thousands of autonomous mining drones throughout the surrounding asteroid field. Cargo containers drifted silently through space. Construction vessels appeared to be repairing abandoned infrastructure. Nothing looked unusual. Everything was. Inside every cargo crate, explosives. Inside every drone, sensors. Inside every communications relay, signal amplifiers. The entire colony became a trap. Not a powerful one, a confusing one. Exactly on schedule, 12 enemy cruisers entered the system. Their commander scanned the abandoned colony. No life signs, minimal activity. Proceed. Human ships remained hidden. The enemy advanced. Mining drones continued drifting exactly as programmed. Cargo containers floated harmlessly nearby. Construction platforms transmitted maintenance signals. Perfectly ordinary. Then, one mining drone changed course. The enemy ignored it. Mining drones always wandered. A second drone followed. Then another. Still ignored. The commander focused on orbital infrastructure. That was the objective. Behind them, 500 mining drones silently aligned into attack vectors. The first explosion wasn't large. It wasn't meant to be. It disabled a sensor array. The second destroyed a communications relay. The third scattered metallic debris across local radar. Instantly, enemy tactical displays filled with false contacts. Thousands of them. The commander frowned. Electronic warfare. Before anyone answered, cargo containers detonated. Not near the warships. Around them, clouds of reflective particles flooded space. Targeting systems became nearly useless. Human destroyers emerged from the asteroid field, not firing, running, straight toward the enemy. The commander smiled. Foolish. His fleet turned to engage. Exactly as predicted. The moment they accelerated, they entered the asteroid field, where thousands of mining lasers activated simultaneously, not powerful enough to destroy warships. Powerful enough to blind sensors. Human ships vanished back into the debris. Enemy formations fractured. Communications lagged. Orders overlapped. Confusion spread. Then the first real attack came. Missiles. Hundreds of them. Not aimed at ships. Aimed at engines. Radiators. External weapon mounts. Tiny vulnerabilities. The battle lasted 9 minutes. When it ended, 3 enemy cruisers floated powerless. 1 had exploded. The remaining 8 retreated. The human fleet pursued for exactly 42 seconds. Then disengaged. Admiral Brooks refused to chase. General Hale watched the battle recording from Earth. Losses? 2 destroyers damaged. Casualties? 34. And them? 1 confirmed destroyed. 3 disabled. Hale nodded. We weren't trying to win. No. We were teaching. Far away. The enemy commander received the after-action report. He read it twice. Then a third time. Impossible. His officers remained silent. 12 ships. Against 200 primitive vessels. No. He enlarged sensor footage. Mining drones. Cargo containers. Improvised explosives. Civilian equipment. Nothing made sense. One sentence in the report drew his attention. Human fleet retreated before achieving maximum tactical advantage. He frowned. Why? No one knew. The answer was sitting in Admiral Brooks' logbook. Objective complete. Enemy now expects traps. Next time, we won't use one. The war had entered a new phase. For the first time, the invaders were no longer fighting according to their own expectations. They were beginning to fight according to humanity's. The news spread across the galaxy faster than the battle itself. Not because humanity had won. They hadn't. The invaders still possessed a fleet hundreds of times larger than Earth's. They still controlled dozens of conquered systems. Their weapons remained generations beyond anything humans could manufacture. But for the first time, an enemy task force had been forced to retreat. No major empire had managed that. Not the Varkul, not the Hive Consortium, not the Silari, not even the Combined Galactic Compact. The species once dismissed as the weakest had done something no one else had accomplished. They had made the invaders hesitate. Furuz. Inside the shattered halls of the Galactic Assembly, the surviving leaders replayed the battle over and over. The Varkul High Marshal leaned forward. They didn't overpower them. No. They confused them. The speaker nodded. They changed the battlefield. A Hive strategist clicked thoughtfully. The humans never fought where the enemy was strongest. They attacked where the enemy expected nothing. Ambassador Elias Ward remained silent until every recording had finished. Then he spoke. "We've been studying your military doctrines." Several admirals looked at him. Ward continued. "Every one of your civilizations trains for decisive victories." Heads nodded. "You seek superior fleets, superior armor, superior weapons. You fight to prove you're stronger." Another pause. "Humans don't." A Silari commander frowned. "Then what do you fight for?" Ward answered simply. "To make tomorrow easier than today." Earth. Protocol Atlas entered Phase 2. Factories no longer produced civilian vehicles. Entire cities worked around the clock. Not under fear, under purpose. Retired engineers returned to work. University students designed drone software. Farmers donated autonomous harvest equipment for military conversion. Commercial shipping companies surrendered every cargo vessel without being ordered. No one asked who would pay for the losses. There would be no economy if humanity lost. General Hale toured one of the orbital shipyards. Thousands of workers floated in magnetic harnesses around an unfinished cruiser. It wasn't beautiful. Alien ships curved like sculptures. Human ships looked assembled from practical necessity. Flat armor plates. External repair ports. Visible weld seams. Standardized compartments. One visiting alien engineer whispered, "They're ugly." The shipyard foreman overheard him. He grinned. "They're easy to fix." Dr. Maya Chen entered the design chamber, carrying another intelligence report. "We've confirmed our theory." Hale looked up. "Their command structure." She nodded. "They rely on central coordination." She projected an image of the enemy fleet. Every formation was mathematically perfect. Every movement synchronized. They're efficient. Extremely. But she highlighted several battles. When communications become unreliable, their initiative drops. General Hale finished her sentence. "They wait." "Exactly." He smiled. "So let's keep interrupting them." The opportunity arrived sooner than expected. An Allied refugee convoy had been trapped in the rear expanse. Nearly 4 million civilians, 30 transport ships, escorted by only 6 damaged frigates. The invaders sent 60 warships to intercept. The Galactic Compact could spare nothing. Every fleet was already defending home systems. Earth received the distress call. Admiral Brooks stared at the tactical map. "We can't win this." Her executive officer nodded. "No." She looked toward the bridge crew. "But we can change it." The human fleet altered course immediately. The refugee convoy had already accepted its fate. Families gathered inside emergency shelters. Children slept while parents pretended everything would be fine. The convoy commander watched the approaching enemy. Estimated arrival, 31 minutes. Weapons available, insufficient. Escape probability, less than 1%. Then, a transmission arrived. Unknown fleet approaching. He expected another evacuation warning. Instead, The screen displayed a human admiral. "This is Admiral Naomi Brooks. We're here." The commander blinked. "Admiral, you have 200 ships." She smiled faintly. "Actually, we have 200 problems. The human fleet never formed a defensive line. Instead, it scattered. Every ship accelerated in a different direction. The enemy commander observed the movement. Disorganized. Primitive. Pursue. Exactly what Brooks wanted. Human vessels split into dozens of independent groups. Some fired missiles. Others launched drones. Several appeared to retreat immediately. The invader fleet divided to intercept them. Within minutes, the perfect formation no longer existed. Individual commanders began making isolated decisions. Communications traffic increased dramatically. Human electronic warfare units flooded every frequency with thousands of false signals. Enemy targeting systems identified friendly ships as hostile. Navigation markers shifted. Sensor ghosts appeared everywhere. The battlefield became chaos. Then, human ships stopped running. They turned. Every scattered group attacked simultaneously. Not the closest enemy. The loneliest. One cruiser. Then another. Then a third. Each isolated vessel suddenly faced 20 human ships instead of 200. By the time nearby reinforcements arrived, the humans were already gone. The enemy commander tried restoring formation. Each attempt failed. Every regrouping effort created another isolated target. The battle continued for 4 hours. Not because humanity was stronger, because humanity refused to fight the same battle twice. On the bridge of Earth's flagship, Resolute, alarms echoed continuously. Hull breach, Deck 9. Repair teams dispatched. Missile lock. Evasive. The ship shook violently. Lights flickered. Captain Luis Ortega steadied himself. Damage? 41%. Can we still maneuver? Barely. He nodded. Good enough. His weapons officer looked concerned. We're outgunned. Ortega laughed. We've been outgunned since yesterday. Across the battlefield, the enemy commander finally cornered one of the human destroyers. The small vessel had exhausted its missiles. Its engines burned. Escape became impossible. Destroy it. Enemy weapons charged. The human ship transmitted a message. No surrender. No plea. Only coordinates. The commander frowned. What are these? An officer answered. They're... He stopped. Asteroids. The commander ignored them. Fire. The destroyer exploded. Mission accomplished. Then, thousands of dormant mining charges hidden inside the nearby asteroid belt activated simultaneously. The entire field erupted. Millions of tons of rock accelerated in every direction. Not naturally, deliberately. Enemy ships suddenly found themselves navigating a storm of debris moving at lethal velocity. 3 cruisers collided. Another lost propulsion. Human bombers emerged from behind the expanding cloud. The commander stared in disbelief. They planned this. Hours ago. The refugee convoy escaped. Every civilian transport reached hyperspace. Not one was lost. The human fleet was less fortunate. 23 ships failed to answer roll call. Thousands of sailors never returned home. Admiral Brooks stood quietly as casualty reports arrived. No celebration filled the bridge, only silence. Finally, her communications officer spoke. We saved 4 million civilians. Brooks nodded. Yes. Another pause. And we lost nearly 6,000 people. Brooks closed her eyes. They knew. They volunteered. Anyway, the story reached every surviving world. Not through military reports, through the refugees. Children described human sailors handing them emergency supplies before returning to battle. Parents spoke of damaged human ships, placing themselves between transports and enemy fire. Doctors remembered human medics refusing evacuation until alien patients had boarded first. The narrative changed. The weakest species had become the one most willing to stand between strangers and certain death. Even the invaders noticed. Their supreme commander reviewed the battle personally. Casualties? Acceptable. Objectives? The refugee convoy escaped. Silence. Why? The tactical officer answered carefully. The humans prioritized civilian extraction. The commander frowned. They sacrificed military advantage. For non-combatants, yes. He stared at the report. Illogical. Then another statistic caught his attention. Human morale had increased after the battle. He looked confused. They lost 23 ships. Correct. They should be discouraged. The officer hesitated. Our psychological models cannot explain the response. The commander dismissed the report. For the first time in centuries, his predictions had failed, not because humanity possessed superior weapons, because humanity valued things his empire had stopped measuring long ago. Far beneath Earth's surface, General Hale received a secure transmission. The face that appeared belonged to Ambassador Ward. The assembly voted. Hale raised an eyebrow. In the middle of a war, Ward almost smiled. They unanimously approved humanity's request. What request? Ward looked directly into the camera. They've given us operational command. General Hale remained silent. So, Ward continued quietly. The species they called the weakest is now leading the defense of the galaxy. The announcement spread across the remaining free systems with almost unbelievable speed. For the first time in recorded galactic history, every surviving civilization had agreed to place its military under the command of another species. Not the Varkal, not the Silari, not the oldest empire, not the strongest. Humanity, the species once ranked as having minimal strategic value. General Marcus Hale stood before a holographic map that now stretched across an entire wall. Red stars marked conquered systems. Blue represented the remaining free worlds. There were fewer blue lights every day. The room was filled with alien admirals. Some towered over humans. Some floated inside life support spheres. Some communicated through translators embedded in robotic bodies. A year earlier, many of them would have refused to shake a human hand. Now, they waited for a human to tell them how to save their civilizations. General Hale looked around the room. I won't promise victory. Silence. I won't promise everyone here survives. More silence. I will promise one thing. He tapped the map. They think this war is almost over. His finger moved slowly toward Earth. We're about to convince them it has only just begun. The first order shocked every Allied commander. Abandon 12 systems. The room erupted. A Varkal admiral slammed his fist onto the table. Those are our colonies. A Hive strategist protested. Billions live there. General Hale nodded. I know. Another commander spoke. So why surrender them? Hale enlarged the map. Lines appeared. Supply routes, fuel depots, repair stations, logistics corridors. The invaders aren't conquering planets. They're feeding an army. He highlighted dozens of captured systems. They've stretched themselves farther than they realize. The room slowly quieted. We're not giving them worlds. We're giving them distance. Over the following weeks, the galaxy watched in confusion. Entire colonies evacuated before the enemy arrived. Factories were dismantled. Fuel reserves disappeared. Orbital stations self-destructed after civilians escaped. The invaders conquered empty cities. Silent factories. abandoned mines, perfect victories. That gave them almost nothing. The Supreme Commander studied the reports. They retreat everywhere. One officer nodded. They appear frightened. The commander smiled. As expected. But another officer interrupted. Our fuel consumption has doubled. Another added. Repair cycles have increased. A third hesitated. Supply fleets are struggling to keep pace. The commander dismissed the concerns. Temporary inconvenience. He had no idea that was exactly what humanity wanted him to believe. 3 months into the campaign, the first cracks appeared. An enemy fleet arrived late to reinforce a front. Another reported ammunition shortages. A third postponed an assault while waiting for replacement parts. Nothing catastrophic, just small delays. Human intelligence celebrated every single one. Dr. Maya Chen smiled as new data arrived. It's working. General Hale looked over the reports. They're slowing down. She nodded. They've never fought this far from home. They've never had to. Then humanity launched its biggest gamble, Operation Long Night. Instead of attacking warships, they attacked logistics. Tiny strike groups slipped through enemy territory. Freighters exploded. Fuel depots vanished. Repair docks were sabotaged. Navigation relays failed. Drone swarms harassed convoys before disappearing into asteroid fields. No battle lasted more than 5 minutes. No human fleet remained long enough for retaliation. The invaders found themselves chasing ghosts. The Supreme Commander grew increasingly frustrated. They refused to fight. One exhausted officer quietly replied, "They are fighting, just not us." Months became a year. The unstoppable invasion slowed, then stalled. For the first time, entire sectors reported no advances. The Galactic Compact noticed. Hope returned. Factories reopened. New ships entered service. Alien engineers worked beside human mechanics. Technology flowed in both directions. Human modular ship construction combined with alien shield technology. Varkal armor reinforced Earth destroyers. Silari sensor arrays improved human targeting systems. Hive manufacturing techniques tripled production speed. Humanity hadn't simply united the galaxy. It had taught it to cooperate. Then intelligence discovered something impossible. Dr. Chen burst into Hale's office. "We found it. Their capital." She shook her head. "No. Their home." Every room in Atlas Command fell silent. The invaders had conquered so many civilizations over so many centuries, no one had ever found where they came from, until now. Captured navigation data, supply routes, micro-jump corrections. Every piece of information pointed toward one isolated region beyond known space. General Hale looked at Admiral Brooks. "If we strike there..." Brooks finished the sentence. "Their fleets lose coordination." The Allied admirals gathered once more. This time, no one questioned human strategy. General Hale outlined the operation. "We're not invading, we're distracting." He highlighted 3 attack groups. Fleet 1 attacks here. Fleet 2 attacks here. Fleet 3, he paused. "Comes with me." A Varkal admiral frowned. "The enemy will know it's a trap." Hale smiled. "I hope so." The battle that followed would later become known as the Battle of the Black Gate. Every surviving Allied fleet attacked simultaneously. The invaders responded exactly as expected. Massive formations converged. Perfect. Predictable. Mathematically flawless. Except, Fleet 3 wasn't where enemy intelligence predicted. It never had been. Human stealth vessels had spent weeks drifting without engines through interstellar darkness. When the final engagement began, they were already behind enemy lines. Their target wasn't a city. It wasn't a fortress. It wasn't even a fleet. It was a communications nexus larger than a moon. The nerve center that synchronized every invasion force. Admiral Brooks looked at her bridge crew. No turning back. Captain Ortega grinned. Wouldn't know how. The assault lasted 14 minutes. Human bombers slipped through blind spots created by the diversionary fleets. Boarding teams breached the station. Engineers overloaded quantum communication cores. Alien commandos held corridors long enough for evacuation. When the final explosive charges activated, the Nexus vanished in a sphere of white light visible across 3 systems. Every invading fleet fell silent. No synchronized orders, no predictive coordination, no centralized calculations. For the first time in centuries, their commanders were alone. General Hale gave a single order, now. Across thousands of star systems, Allied fleets attacked. Not because they had become stronger, because the enemy had become ordinary. Individual commanders made mistakes. Some retreated too early. Others advanced without support. Entire formations lost cohesion. The perfect machine had become an army, and armies could lose. The war continued for another 18 months. There were victories. There were defeats. There were worlds humanity couldn't save. Friends buried. Heroes remembered. No miracle ended the conflict overnight. Instead, the invaders slowly lost everything they had once taken for granted: supply, coordination, momentum, confidence. One system at a time, the galaxy reclaimed itself. The final surrender came unexpectedly. A damaged enemy flagship emerged under a white beacon. No weapons charged. No escorts, only a transmission. The Supreme Commander requested negotiations. He entered the conference chamber, accompanied by 2 guards. Across from him sat representatives from dozens of species. At the center, General Marcus Hale. The commander studied him for a long moment. "You are physically inferior." Hale smiled. "So, I've been told. You are technologically behind." "We were. You possess shorter lifespans." "True." The commander frowned. "Then, explain." Hale leaned back. "You studied strength. You measured armor. You counted ships. You calculated probabilities." The commander remained silent. "You never measured imagination." Another pause. "You never measured sacrifice." Another. "You never measured what happens when billions of ordinary people decide that losing isn't an option." The commander's shoulders lowered. For the first time, he looked around the room. "I understand." 5 years later, the Crystal Dome on Asterion Prime welcomed delegates once again. This time, the hall was full. Children from dozens of species toured the restored assembly. History classes replayed the opening ceremony from years before, the one where humanity had been mocked, the one where the entire galaxy had laughed. Near the entrance stood a bronze plaque. It displayed the original evaluation. Humanity. Physical strength, low. Military potential, limited. Strategic value, minimal. Beneath it, someone had added another inscription. Assessment revised. Physical strength, unchanged. Military potential, unlimited. Strategic value, civilization, defining. Visitors often asked why the first 3 lines had never been removed. Ambassador Elias Ward always gave the same answer: because they weren't wrong. The children looked confused. Ward smiled. "We really were weaker. We really did have fewer ships. We really were weaker, outmatched. He looked toward the stars beyond the Great Dome. The mistake was believing strength is what wins every war. Years later, cadets at every military academy in the galaxy would memorize the first lesson of the human defense doctrine. Not because humans had the biggest fleets, not because they built the strongest weapons, but because they had changed how every civilization understood conflict. The lesson contained only one sentence. Never judge an enemy by what they are, judge them by what they become when everything they love is threatened. And from that day forward, no one in the galaxy ever called humanity the weakest species again.